The affirmation there at the top of the page. Together.
In one
spirit,
spirit,
God everywhere,
In
everyone,
everything.
everything.
What's the good news? Birthdays, anniversaries.
Thanksgiving's coming.
I've decided that I was gonna be thankful today and get ahead of the curve.
Good idea, me too. It's my intention for the week.
It's the day God made. I'm gonna rejoice and be glad in it.
Okay. No anniversaries, any, windfalls, seeing losses, and turn it around. Okay, here's what Hafiz has to say about it, about the answer to the question who. You're it. You're it. God, disguised as a myriad things and playing a game of tag, has kissed you and said, you're it. I mean, you're really it. Now, it does not matter what you believe or feel, for something wonderful, major league wonderful, is someday going to happen. Need to add anybody to the prayer list?
Jake.
Madison, Mika,
Let's get quiet. We'll do this meditation. Just relax, right where you're at. Focusing on the breath. Not trying to change it in any way. Just noticing. Noticing how it works. As you breathe in, you're filled. And as you breathe out, you just naturally relax. Breathing in, you are filled with love. And breathing out, you relax into life. Just get a picture of yourself right now moving through the day, going from task to task, from person to person. Focusing on the breath. Breathing in love. Breathing out light. Taking in life. Giving out love. Say to yourself, I am real. I am real. I am aware of reality. I observe the unity of all life. God has spoken me into existence. I am real in the light of good. And so, release the illusion that the apparent behavior of others determines your well-being. Let go of any fear, upset, anger that you may harbor right now. Just give it over into the care of God. Make a decision you'll no longer relegate your brothers and sisters to a role. You will no longer make them an object. Here's the place where we realize that happiness is not really connected to the actions of others or the circumstances or events. There is no threat, no danger that this light of God that we were created in cannot overcome. Every fear we have is just a shadow on the wall. A shadow that we create in the darkness of self-centeredness. Today we decide to be real. Come out of the shadow. To leave illusions behind. And be reconciled with the light of life. Say amen. Amen. hearts should do more of this. I sit in the streets with the homeless. My clothes are stained with the wine from the vineyards that the saints tend. The light has painted all acts the same color. I sit around and laugh all day with my friends. At night, I feel a divine loneliness, so I tear the doors off of love's mansion and wrestle God onto the floor. He becomes so pleased with his deeds and says, our hearts should do this more. Does that disturb me? Wrestling God down to the floor? Hey, wait a minute. Jacob did that. Jacob did that. And then what happened was his name was changed to Israel, which means he who strives with God. You can take that two different ways. You can take it as he who fights with God, or you can take it as he who endeavors with God. So, who are we? Are we the one that fights? Or are we the one that endeavors?
You can move. I got a full.
Okay. Got a full picture back there.
Yes.
We're good.
Yes.
We're good.
Your head won't be cut off.
So what's the sign say?
Who?
You are who? Who you are? You are who? You are child of God. Child of God. Inheritor of the kingdom. It's just so confusing sometimes. The world seems dark. It's in the meditation. It's dark and threatening and foreboding, danger around every corner. And we are told that that we can transcend the world. First, we should probably understand that the world is of our own making. I remember the man saying to Marianne Williamson in a Friday night in Los Angeles, he was questioning the existence of a loving God. I know I've told this before, but it's important here. And he said, how could it be possible that there's a loving God when all of these people are starving, when all of this madness is going on in the world? And she said, sir, that people are starving says a lot more about our consciousness than God's consciousness. So what does Amos say in the book of Amos? He comes down from his perch where he was tending his sheep, and he says, you're ignoring these invisible people. They're really not invisible. You just act like they are. You're ignoring those who are suffering. He makes it very clear that their safety, the safety of those who have the privilege, that their safety, or some might say salvation, lies in taking care of the ones who need taken care of. This is the lesson of so many of the prophets. So what happens? What happens is we are worshiping different things. We're worshiping, as is prescribed in the first commandment, we are worshiping the idols of acquisition. We're worshiping the idols of, let me get some more. Whatever that may look to us, because that's what we think our safety lies in that, and we're inundated day in and day out by messages on the television, on billboards. Get some more stuff. You'll feel better. Go get some more stuff. That's all you need. Look at it. Your neighbor has it. You should probably get, this time you can get it before your neighbor gets it. It doesn't make us feel especially good, except then we notice that it's not enough. We notice that it actually doesn't feel, and that's the whole point. The point is this search, this striving, this trying to get more is never satisfied. So I think there's another way. There's another way, that when we actually decide who we're gonna be. First of all, let's just remember that at the core, at the very foundation of us, we are pure and loving spirit. This is the thing that needs to be remembered, so important, that we start with that. We are pure and loving spirit. Children of God. This is our true identity. This is where we start. But here we sit in a world of division. Here we sit in this place that seems lonely. And so we say, well, what? This doesn't match up. This doesn't match up. My idea of my identity as a child of God is not matching up to my seeming environment. So we have to understand that our job is to help it match up. And there's something for us to do. The Course in Miracles says this very clearly, says we are here to be truly helpful. We are here to do the will of Him who sent us. So when we begin to focus, instead of focusing on just what we think we want and what we think we need, if we begin to notice that there are other needs around us, that there are others who are in need of our help, and we begin to give that help, that's when we find our own safety and our own fulfillment. And the most amazing thing happens. Prosperity comes on its own. There's just a slight shift in consciousness, right? We've talked about this so many times. A slight shift in consciousness. When I go to work, I don't go to work to punch the clock and get my hours in to get paid. I go to work to see how helpful I can be in my job. It's the simplest thing. So I go to work to see, yes, I still have to punch the clock and I still have to be there a certain amount of hours. But as soon as I change my attitude that I'm not just there marking time, waiting to get paid, if I go in there with this attitude that I'm there to help, then first thing that happens is I get the job done better, I do better, and without resentment, and suddenly I become, to the organization, wherever it is, I become more valuable to my customer, my client, my coworkers, and overall I become more valuable to the organization, and all of a sudden, other benefits arise. Now, if I use that as a technique, if I think this is now a new device that I'm going to use my new disguise that I'm going to put on is I'm going to go to work as a helper, because I know that I'm going to do better if I go to work as a helper. This is just not, again, we're going to lose the satisfaction. That's our reward then. The reward then is I appear to others as a helper. If I really want to help, if I really want to be of service, then I get the true reward. I get whatever I'm really looking for, right? So, we've got these things that are, we have these characteristics that are fighting us in our efforts to be helpful. And they've been identified in many different ways, and but they boil down. When we do a fifth step in recovery programs, we unveil with ourselves and God and another human being, we unveil this thing called the exact nature of our wrongs. And the exact nature of our wrongs is really just the exact nature is fear. Every single thing that we have done that is harmful to others has arisen out of fear. Every single thing we've done that's harmful to ourselves has arisen out of fear. This is a big thing, though, to get our arms around. The Course in Miracles is clear on this issue. It says there's only two things actually going on in our apparent lives: fear or love. And so this fear then shows itself in a number of different ways. And those are what other people look at, see, and call, well, if they're kind, they'll call them our liabilities. Some would say they're our character defects. That these things, once known. So maybe I'll put it in a different way this morning. In the world that we have made, this is very important that we understand this. We have made the world of our experience. We do it every day by our thoughts, by our words, by our actions. We're building this world that we are experiencing. So this, we can say then, this world that we're experiencing is the world we have made. This is not the world that God has made. This is the world that we have made. And in this world, there is suffering. And the cause of the suffering is the fear that shows itself as craving and clinging. This is what the Buddha said about it. So this is where suffering comes from, because we crave. This is the biggest thing we just looked at. We live in a consumer society, which means we live in a craving society. So all suffering arising out of the fear that pushes us to craving, wanting more, clinging, and aversion. Trying to avoid anything that's hard, any kind of pain. So all these things arise out of those two. The craving turns itself into, when we crave something, we really want it, and we get it, and then we want to hold it. We don't want to let it go. We will squeeze that sucker to death. Some people calls it smothering, but this is, and then of course it turns bad. As soon as we start clinging, it turns bad. So, and then when a problem arises, try to avoid it. What do? We try to avoid it by perhaps pursuing something else that can make us forget about it for a minute. So the way out of the suffering, this suffering is this thing that what the Buddha identified as this eightfold path. And it's not important that we become Buddhists to practice this. There's just spiritual principles that exist in all over the place that we can use. And the way out in this eightfold path is all it is this very simple idea of taking the right approach to all aspects of living. Simple, they're simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. And the right approach would be an approach that's realistic and balanced and like a complete holistic system. So we've identified that we have these things. Here's what we've got. We have expectations. This grows directly out of fear. I have expectations. This is what I want. And some people call it conditions, conditional love, whatever. I have expectations. And the opposite of these expectations and conditional love would be being unconditional, being able to allow people to be whoever they are and not having to try to change them. Then we have envy, covetousness, greed, vanity, inertia, anger. These are just aspects of this fear that shows up. And if we go to this model of trying to live life in a balanced and complete way, in a holistic way, we start with this right view. And a right view would be the realistic view of the world that we perceive. To realize that this world we have made is always changing. It's always changing, so that means it's always presenting us with a new thing to either covet, to either want to cling to, or a new thing to want to avoid. So this is continually going on. We realize that there's no escape. There is no escape through avoidance. Because what has happened here is we have collectively, and I want to really be clear about this, collectively we have laid the foundation of this. Together we conspire, and we've talked about this theme a number of times. We have, at an unconscious level, we are conspiring with each other to keep this crazy system operating. We go along with it. And some of us, sometimes we go along with it in a very conscious way. But then individually, we have built the structure of our lives based on this foundation that we kind of conspire together with. And that conspiracy is like this. Us now gathered here, we can be a group, we can be like-minded, we can have a goal, and we can have interests that each one of us, we're going to protect. We're going to take care of each other in this group. But there's another group across the street, across town, that they have another agenda. It's highly suspect. We can talk about their other agenda as a threat to us. They maybe don't look like us. Maybe they don't talk like us, so it makes it easier. Maybe they're so we can set up this alliance between ourselves to be very watchful and careful of these other people across town. And this is a conspiracy. This is a conspiracy. It's going on all the time. Right now, we see it very clearly. We have a divided country. We have a divided country. I mean, if you look at all the polling and everything, we have a divided country. And the natural tendency of each side, is to view the other side as a threat. This is ancient. It's been going on forever. It's part of actually our genetic programming. Genes want to continue to reproduce. It's easier to do that if you get a group of people working together for the common goal, right? The problem is the world has changed since those genetic instructions were imprinted upon us. The world has changed to the point now where we have to see that we can't stand apart, that the only way that we are going to be able to go forward is to get together. All of these old prejudices and all of these old hates have got to be put aside. We have got to make a decision that we are going to evolve consciously to move past these things if we're going to survive. Now, I'm going to say this. Some people think that things are going so bad that humans are going to become extinct. I don't think that's going to happen. That's not what I think is going to happen. If we keep going like this, what's going to happen? There's going to be a lot less of us, and we're going to live at a much lower level than what we do right now for some time. Could be a long, long time before we actually come out because of the damage that we're doing because we're apart. And there's a whole list of things that we can think about. We're not taking care of the planet. We're even now, even when we know. Now people just want to mitigate. They want people now. Oh, it's already too late. We can't do anything about it. So let's mitigate our lot. Let's just figure out a way that we can protect ourselves from the results instead of saying, hey, man, let's put all of our attention on those fix it, right? I don't know. I don't have the answer as to actually what to do except for one thing. We got to start by coming together. I know that's true. So there's no escape through avoidance. There's also no escape for more acquisition. More acquisition, see, we become like cancer upon the planet because we're eating everything in sight. We're actually eating ourselves. We're cannibals, cannibalizing ourselves, our future. So don't look away. Don't say, oh man, this is like too much. I can't deal with it. I've just let me turn on Netflix. God, it's worse. It's worse on the Netflix. Oh, listen, Netflix is fine. We should have a little guilty pleasure in our lives, but it can't be the avoidance of life. So don't look away. We need to hear. We need to hear the voices that are crying out for help. We need to smell it. We need to taste it. We need to feel it. To feel what is right now, in this moment, right now. The purpose of our meditation, the purpose of our prayer is to get to the point where we see that it's all impermanent, it's all going to pass, and to stop making such a big deal out of our personal thing right now. And to realize that what we really need is to fold ourselves into the larger community. To stop worrying so much about our individual selves. No, if we just could get a little bit of faith to know that if we turn this over to the care of the God of our understanding, that we be cared for in the midst of the community. Everything in this world that we have made is burning. And when I say, I want you to see the picture of that. The world that we have made is burning. It is on fire. It is headed for destruction. And I'm not talking about literally. I'm talking to get the vision of this to understand that it is changing over time. The lesson of the vase that's already broken, right? You get a vase and you just cherish it. It's just the most beautiful. It's just the most beautiful thing somebody given to you as a gift. To realize within yourself that sooner or later that vase is broken. So everything is impermanent. So the world that we know is changing. Some of it's crumbling. There's new things being built up, but it's falling. All these things are falling apart, and every single body is dying. Everything in the world is burning, and every body is dying. This is the nature of impermanence. So when we understand that that's not us, we're not the things in our life. We are not our bodies. That we are something more than that. Aversion doesn't work. Likewise, an attempt to stack up more stuff doesn't work. It's a fool's errand. There will never be enough to satisfy, and the hoard we achieve will eventually lose its value. And deep within the meditation, we'll see that the world itself is not real. So who are we and where are we? We are pure and loving spirit in the midst of spirit. We are part of God. What Emily Cady said many years ago, don't confuse yourself. If you go to the ocean and take out a thimble full of water, the water in the thimble is part of the ocean, but you would not confuse yourself to think that the water in the thimble is the whole ocean. So yes, we are part of God, but we are not the whole of God. Together with all life, the unity of all life, this is the whole of God. So, deep within the meditation, we see the world is not real, and that there is an eternal state, this eternal state of spirit that is unchanging. The kingdom of heaven is the kingdom of oneness. The kingdom of heaven is this eternal state that is unchanging, this eternal state of love, and the extension of more love. Still, we do not deny the experience of the world. We recognize it. We recognize what's happening. It doesn't help us to say, this isn't real, I want heaven. We're never going to get there that way. We have to understand that our experience is real. What's going on with us right now, it is happening to us. Even though it's an illusion, but it's still our real experience. We are having it. So we recognize it. We accept it. We accept it like a gift. We investigate it. We check it out. We say, what is this? Where did this feeling come from that just caused me to act like a butthead? Where did this feeling come from that just caused me to do something harmful or dishonest or whatever I am now regretting? Where did that come from? What was I feeling? What was I thinking? What was that thought all about? And what do I believe about myself and the world that keeps causing these thoughts, that cause these bad feelings, that end up having me reacting badly in life, and therefore creating this experience of a dangerous world? What is going on? Check it out. Get quiet. The only place we're going to find, you can read every book in the world and somebody could explain it so clearly in the book and we still would not know if we read the book. The only way we're going to know is to get quiet, to go into prayer, to experience it. And all of a sudden there will become an awareness will come over us. We will understand what's going on. And all this time, we thought we were alone. All of this time, we might have thought we were alone in the midst of a crowd. Unloved in the bosom of a loving family. Alone in the dark. We're not. The world and all of its experiences, we come to this understanding that the world and all of its experiences are just passing states of mind. What did the Pope say? They asked him about hell. What did the Pope say about hell? He said, hell is not a place. It's more like a state of mind. And they said, oh, well really? Well, what about heaven? Yeah, kind of like that. Passive state of mind. So what do we want? So we've got a state of mind now that very much of the time is hellish. It's hellish. But to remember that it's a passing state of mind and we can do something about it. We can do something about it. We can release it. So what's the motivation to do this change? What's the motivation to go from who we think? You know, this guy said yesterday, I'm not who I think I am all of this time. If I am not who I think I am, then who might I become? So this is the idea, to open up this to open us up to these possibilities. And I'm going to finish with this idea of the motivation. So here's our motivation.
Our motivation does not have to be altruistic. Our motivation does not have to be like, I want to be a good person, I want to be helpful, I want to get out there and, change the world. Our motivation can be so simple. The motivation is that I want to come to peace. I want to be at peace in love. That this is my motivation. That this is the right motivation, and not by rote, and not by ritual, not by memorizing prayers or scriptures that we can then just spit out. Not by rote or by ritual. The ritual can be good, it can be rich, it can be fabulous, but we must remember what it means. Not because someone's told us that we should, not by self-centered approval seeking, but by compassion and love. The perspective of compassion, understanding, and love frames this mission. To realize that when we operate out of love, we are in love. And that is that is just so much more of a pleasant state of mind than that state of mind of fear. That service becomes our conscious intention, and we resolve that what we want to do is to be of goodwill. Whereas some of us have viewed this decision that what this means is, and this is what the monks have done for centuries. So what it is, I'm going to give up home and hearth, and I'm going to go isolate myself in some kind of monastery or some cave somewhere to adopt a life of sacrifice. This approach goes against what the Buddha said was the middle way. It goes against what Jesus said. Jesus said, be a light. Let your light shine. This is not talking about spitting out some kind of judgment on somebody else. This is talking about live in such a manner that people are inspired by your living.
Amen, bro.
So, right motivation involves living life fully living life, not trying to restrict your life, but fully living life, but always seeking the way to be most helpful in each situation. So even with this purpose, this cannot become a new obsession. This should not become some kind of new obsession. Better, relax into the endeavor. And in this way, we will come to a certain peace. And it will also make us much more effective. We will become aware of that which constricts and enrages us and allows us then to forgive. And this is the key. The whole entire thing is to forgive. To forgive all of our mistakes. To realize that this was Jesus was saying. He says, if you come to the temple with your gift and you're holding something against your brother, go first and reconcile with your brother. And then come back. This is who we are. We are pure and loving spirit, caught in a manifestation of a body, in a manifestation of a separated world, and our endeavor is to be reconciled with our brother, to come back to the temple and give our gift of love. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, bro.
Holy moly, what happened?
Yay, God.